Hi all, welcome back to software testing course. So in the last class we had seen about who does the testing, whether it is developers or the independent test team, and we had studied about buddy testing. We had also seen about V model and testing and life cycle models. So today let's get started with testing the systems. So once the coding stage is over or your implementation stage is over, the software has to be tested. So during the development itself, the unit testing and the integration testing will be done. So the system as an entire software or project, it has to be tested. The system, how it has to be tested is like we have test the software with the SRS document as the reference. Now this SRS it contains mainly two sections which are important. Okay, that is functional and non-functional. Right, your SRS contains functional requirements for the project as well as the non-functional requirements for the project. So these functional requirements these specify what your software does, and the functionality it varies from application to application, right? So for most of the application the software package or the functional testing it involves testing of your GUI, that is graphical user interface. For example, if we consider a payroll application, through the GUI, it needs to be tested whether the software is able to generate the payroll correctly for the employees. The results that are obtained through the software have to be compared with your existing manual system. So, if both the results match, then we can confidently say that the software is indeed meeting the functional requirement. Okay, now we will talk about non functional requirements. So, these non functional requirements are the constraints or the requirements that are imposed on the system. So, non functional requirements they deal with the issues such as your performance, maintenance, reliability, security, etc. So, again, non functional requirements they address some important issues of quality for the software systems. Now, this non functional requirement they can be classified into three different types. So those are your product requirements, then your process requirements, and the last one is external requirements. So the product requirements are classified into reliability, portability, usability, and efficiency. Again, efficiency you consider by the performance and space. Okay, performance again it is divided into response time and throughput. So basically in the non-functional requirement whenever the product requirement comes we should check whether it is performing well, whether it is portable, whether your software is reliable, what is the throughput. So these all factors that these comes under product requirement. Next is process requirements. So here the delivery time, implementation requirements, and the standards. What are the standards you are following in your project? What is the delivery time of your project? These all things will come into picture. And in the external requirements, your safety, security, then whether you have coded ethically or is it your project whether it is going legally, there are any legal issues or what. So these things will come under your external requirements. So, in the requirement phase itself, in the SRS, while building your SRS, the engineers will find out which type of non functional requirements are applicable to that particular project or product in hand. Okay, and only those will be mentioned in your SRS document. So, how this will be done is like so, whenever the analyst is in talks with your clients, right, he is understanding the project, he is building up the SRS, that time your analyst will ask the customer which all the non-functional requirements are they looking into. So only those will be picked up and it will be written into the SRS. So for example, say the customer or your client they want library automation software to be developed by your organization. So the customer wants the software to be run on, say, suppose Windows XP environment. Okay. Or however, your management may feel that you should develop the software in such a way that it works on both XP, Linux, and the newer version of Windows. So your management, they want to make money by selling the product to other customers as well. So in such case, right, portability comes into picture. So if the current client, they want the project to be run on the Windows or the Linux, the same project can be given to different organization with modifications which run on a different operating system. So this is portability. So this is one of the non-functional requirement. So if portability is a requirement, the various platforms on which the software has to work, it will be specified. For example, your Windows, Linux, and maybe Mac as well, right? So the test engineers need to test the software on all these operating systems. The test engineers, they need to study various non-functional requirements that need to be tested, and they have to write the test cases for each of these requirement. Again, testing each non-functional requirement is also a very involved task. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the testing strategies. So the strategy is nothing but planning. Okay, what are the things you need to keep in mind while testing? So here we have multiple things to learn in testing strategies, like your what do we mean by static testing, then dynamic testing, then what is test case, oracle, all these things. So we'll look into this one by one. Okay, so the first one would be static testing. So this static testing is also called as static analysis. So what will happen, or how do you do the static testing? So here the software will be tested without executing it. Okay, so this is generally done by code reviews and code inspections. The programmer or your developer, along with other group members, he'll discuss, or he'll go through the code and check whether any syntax errors are there, any logical errors are there in the project, or whatever the code he has written. So the code is checked to ensure that it implements all the requirements that is given in the SRS document. It is also checked whether the code has enough comments so that the other engineers, they can easily relate to the code, or they can understand the code. So, and again, it is whenever you have comments, it is easy for maintenance. Okay, so these code reviews can be done either formally or informally. Now this, we call it as static testing or analysis. Remember, static means the testing would be done by without executing your project or the code. Okay, the next one is dynamic testing, contrary to your static testing, right? So here what will happen, the code is executed and then it is tested. The first code is compiled, it is executed with the inputs, and if the actual result, if it matches with the expected result, then the software, we will consider it as okay, right? This sounds very easy, like you just give the input, you get the output, check whether the actual output is matching your what you are expecting. So this might be easy, it looks easy, but it is not. Okay, so this is a difficult task. Why it is difficult task? You need to understand as a test engineer what inputs you have to give, right, and how much you have to give. That is the issue here. So let's consider a program. Okay, so this is an example to why we say that testing is difficult. So let's consider a program which finds out the square root of a given number, right? So what you have to do, you first write the code and then execute it. Okay, so you need to give some numbers as input and check whether you are getting the correct output or not. So the inputs can be 12, 34, 16, minus 23, 0, minus 46, etc. For the positive numbers, it should give the correct value. If you give 16 as the input, so the square root would be 4. So if you give 0 or the negative number, it should display a error message saying something like please give only positive numbers. Okay. Now, can we say that the software is okay, right? If you give the positive numbers, you got the correct answer. If you give negative and the 0, you got the error. At this point, can you say that the software is working perfect or your program is working perfect? If you say yes, then it is wrong. Why wrong? Because say suppose you give a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? What will be the output in this case? So if your program, it takes integers as input and the system allocates, say suppose only 2 bytes to an integer, then the whatever value I have said now, it is not acceptable, right? It results in a overflow and you will get a runtime error for this one. So there are lots of issues that need to be resolved in dynamic testing. You need to check the software for valid inputs, invalid inputs, and also ensure that the software gives the appropriate error messages. Okay, now let's see why testing is difficult. Okay, so in the dynamic testing, we had seen that the code is executed and the test inputs we have to give. Then we check whatever the actual output we are getting is what we had expected. So here there are many types of test inputs we had to give, and that is the issue, right? So we need to give ideally all possible test inputs. Say for example, say your program, it works fine for, or just say like your project, it takes a positive number from 1 to 999. Okay, and whenever you give any number from 1 to 999, the output is something. Okay, and it is a positive output and it should work. Now tell me, for this input, right, from 1 to 999, what are the, or how many numbers you go on as input and you test the output? Will you give all all the numbers from 1 to 999 and check for the output, or will you give only some of the inputs? So how do you test it, right? That is a issue. So here we'll talk about exhaustive testing. Okay, so we'll consider an example so that you'll get better understanding of this one. So to test a program, okay, which takes three numbers as inputs, basically three sides of your triangle, and it checks whether these inputs, whatever you have given, will it form a triangle or not, right? Now how do you test this program? The program is, you have to give three inputs to your program accepts three inputs and it will check whether the input whatever you have given, whether it forms a triangle or not. Okay, this is our problem. So how do you test this program? So you have to give three different combinations of inputs and check whether the program is working correctly. So we need to give the correct inputs, right? That is the numbers which form the triangle. And we also need to give the wrong inputs, that is the numbers which do not form a triangle. And we have to test or ensure that it is working properly. To give the correct numbers again, the numbers can be integers, it can be floating points, or it can be combination of both, right? So we also need to give the characters and check whether the program, it is working fine, right? So if you give characters, you'll get interesting output. Okay. So again, we need to give small integers, say 1, 2, 3, and also give the large integers like large numbers, five nines, something like this. Okay. So we need to give some inputs which have one or two zeros, and also zeros, all zeros, to check whether the program is working. So these are the combinations or different types of inputs what we can give to this particular program. So to carry out the exhaustive testing of such a simple program, the input data has to be, it has to be huge, right? So it takes nearly 2 hours or maybe more than that to give all possible combinations and ensure that the program is okay. So this is one example we had considered. Okay. Next, we'll see another example. It is a simple calculator. Okay. This is a GUI of your simple calculator. That is your standard calculator, right? So here we have many functions. Basically, you would know what are these functions and all, right? So your square root, it finds the square root of the number. This one, then percentage, this will be calculated. To inverse a number, this would be used. Then okay, this one plus minus to give the sign to a number. Then CE to clear the displayed number, and to display, and this one C is to clear the current calculation. Okay, then we have M plus, this is to add to the memory, and MS to save in the memory, MR to recall from the memory, and MC to clear the memory. So other things, those are very common. You must be knowing all other things, right? So now say suppose you want to test this calculator whether it is working fine or not. Okay, so how do you test this? You have a program, no, or basically in your system you have this standard calculator, right? How do you test this standard calculator? So you have to, basically what you will do, you test the addition of two numbers or three numbers, floating point numbers, large numbers, then you check whether the results are okay or not. Okay, so then you do the subtraction and this continues, right? So you test all the arithmetic functions here. Then you need to check the correct percentages are being obtained. You need to test whether inverse functionality is correct or not. Then you check all the memory functions. So you need to check for positive numbers, negative numbers, 0, very small, very long. So all this list, it goes on, right? So just for one small GUI like this, if you have to give all possible combination of inputs and then test, then you need infinite time and also energy to do this kind of testing, right? And this is nothing but your exhaustive testing. You get exhausted, right? And if you go on testing like this one, which is practically impossible, right? So let's consider another example, right? So where you want to, test the file name as the input. You just have to check whether the file name is correct or not. Okay. As per the specification, your file name, say it has to contain 1 to 8 letters of A to Z, only in the uppercase. Digits, special characters are not allowed, and also blank in between the letters is not allowed. Then how do you test such a program, right? So the various inputs, what are the types of inputs you can give to this program? You can give one letter, two letter, three letter, up to 8 letters. And each letter, it can be one of those 26 alphabets in uppercase. So there are, many valid file names. So the number of valid test inputs could be 26 alphabets plus 26 raised to 2 plus 26 raised to 3 up to 26 raised to 8, right? In addition, you need to test the program by giving at least some of the file names which have 9 letters, some file names containing spaces, then special characters, basically negative testing, right? So for these invalid inputs, the software, it has to display the error message. So how can you conclude that this type of testing, right? So it is not practical. It is not practical or importance. You should never attempt to do such testing like all the valid inputs, right? So what is the solution for this one? The solution is you can give the subset of these valid input file names such as a single character, for example A, then you give DEF, then you give some other up to 8 letters. So you can also give a file names, with invalid file names such as containing at the rate symbol, space in between them, something like that. So if you test the program with only a limited number of test inputs, you will get a confidence in your software that it is working, right? So now the test engineer's job is reduced to a single task, that is selection of the test inputs. So that will bring out, again you have to select the test inputs such that it would bring out maximum number of defects that are in your software. Now these test inputs are called as test cases. Okay, so in the exhaustive testing, all the possible inputs are given to check whether the program works correctly. As exhaustive testing is time consuming and it is practically impossible for large programs, the software has to be tested only by giving selected inputs which are likely to uncover maximum defects in your software. So you have to give only a subset of possible inputs and test the software. So one fundamental problem with the testing is that software can never be completely tested. In spite of our best efforts, we may still leave behind some of the defects which are delivered to your customer, right? This is the reality of testing. Now, why do we say testing is difficult, right? So the first one, we need to test the software for both right and the wrong inputs, that is your valid and invalid inputs, and check whether the functionality is working correctly, as well as non-functional things we have to check. We need to give the inputs in such a way that each and every line of the code is tested. Then we need to give random inputs and check whether the software never fails. Again, we need to test the software to check with a perspective of normal user, and check for necessary error messages, help, etc., whether those are provided in your software. We need to also test functional non-functional requirements. We need to test the software in different hardware and environments depending on the requirements, maybe different operating systems. So these all inputs, these all point make the testing difficult. Okay, that's it for today. We'll conclude our session. Thank you.